Hello everybody, and this video is going to be a little bit weird since I'm working remotely. As you can see, the game is going to be severely laggy for me. So I'm going to switch up halfway through, but I wanted to do a couple of things on this character first to kind of explain some things. So, talking about ego weapons today. Ego weapons, you can have up to 3 of them. The hotkey to do this is the same key as the question mark, but you're not going to press shift for it. It's the same hotkey as the old spirit weapons, which we'll get to in a bit on how to transfer those and whatnot. But it's the same one. And you'll see here at the top, you'll have spirit information. You'll have the tabs for your 3 different egos. You can have up to 3. If you have less than 3, you're not going to have 3 tabs here. You get to name each of your egos anytime you move it, anytime you create one. Like if it changes weapons or something like that, you'll get to rename it. It won't lose any stats or anything like that. That penalty has been removed, but it will. Well, you can see it here. Okay, so there's a few different tabs here. There's info that gives you a brief rundown of all of the bonuses that you get from this weapon. As you can see, I've got a lot of upgrades for my level 65 ego compared to my level 32 ego. So a few things to note: at level 21, egos get their awakening skill. The awakening skills for each weapon is separate. As you can see here, I have shuriken, crossbow, and cylinder. Once you use the skill, it gives bonus damage for a period of time after that. I believe it's 75 seconds. After you've used the awakening, it will give bonus damage to any skills that you use with the talent of the weapon that the awakening was used for. So for like cylinder awakening, I would get bonus damage for water cannon and flame burst and all that jazz. And crossbow awakening boosts my magnum shot damage, pretty basic. Over here you'll see enhancement. This enhance button goes to all of the skills that you can unlock for the ego. The right tree all has to deal with the awakening. The middle tree is bonuses that apply to specific circumstances with the weapon. And then the leftmost tree is flat damage for the most part, or flat crit. So here in the middle tree, I find a lot of useful things in this tree. For the cylinder, clearly I went for this first. It was the casting time for rain casting. It removes 5 seconds on it. For cylinder, for shuriken, you'll go here and instead you get a reset on Kunai Storm. It resets the cooldown if you crit, and it has a 30% chance to do this on any crit that you do. It doesn't have to be a crit with Kunai Storm. So any crit that you make has a 30% chance of resetting the cooldown on Kunai Storm, which is really cool because Kunai Storm's a multi-hit ability, so if it crits every time, you're almost guaranteed to be able to use the skill immediately afterward. For a crossbow, there's a bleed effect, there's bonus damages, and stuff like that. Nothing super special. There's a splash damage on magnum shot. The chain weapon has splash damage on chain impale. I haven't really messed with any of the other egos very much, but I know they all have like kind of unique effects that apply more to that specific weapon type in the middle tree, whereas the left tree is basically just the same for all of the weapons for the most part. Crossbow, once you get to the ultimate here in the middle tree, it makes it so that you don't consume ammo. For crossbow or bow, both of them are the same. For shurikens, you get a huge buff to Sakura Abyss, where it takes only 1 second to load. And then with the cylinders, you get attack delay for water cannon and wind blast, which basically turns your water cannon into a machine gun. It's kind of cool because it takes 1 second of the time after you've used it. Like, it's hard to explain how attack delay works with alchemy, but it's like you load the skill, and as soon as you load the skill, you can fire the skill and then reload it immediately. So it's like a significant amount of time. That 1 second is actually a significant amount of time, and hopefully I'll be able to demonstrate a little bit of that. But so if I load Kunai Storm, right, I'm playing remotely, so I actually have to hold the button down here. You can see it's fully charged now, and it barely took any time to do so. It takes 1 full second and full charge. So you can see how that would be really useful. There's other useful effects like Hydra damage and stuff. I'll show you charge speed for rain casting. You can compare this with your own weapon. Yeah, it's really short now because of the ego effect. And again, sorry for the lag. I can't do anything about it. So at this point, I think we kind of understand a little bit about how the enhancements go. So I'll go over to growth. In growth, you'll see 3 tabs. You have gem, powder, and etc. These are items that you can feed your ego. Some items that are pretty commonly used are gems, obviously. They give them like the most experience for single items. So if you've got a lot of gems, this is something you can do with them other than just using them for gem upgrades and such. But the higher level that your ego goes, the more gems you're going to need to feed it, and it turns into this huge sinkhole. Other things you can do are you can feed egos ghost fluid, which you can get an infinite supply of if you stop at the boss in Pika Dungeon and just kill the ghosts and ignore the boss, or drop the aggro on the boss when she's on the other side of the room. You kill all the ghosts, she'll spawn more, and it's just an infinite loop of getting more ghosts and ghost fluid. So that's one way you can do it. The other way that I've heard people do is rolling pins. You can feed them rolling pins. Both of those will appear in the etc. tab. You can feed them equipment and stuff like that as well. Just be very, very careful about this. You'll notice down on the bottom here, there's a couple of buttons. If you click auto, it'll automatically select the first 10 items that you can feed the ego. So I'll do that here real quick. And it's selected items that I might not want anymore, like stuff that hasn't been upgraded, maybe some stuff that's like just, you know, pretty easy to replace. It thinks that automatically these are the items I'd want to feed it. And here's the cancel button there. You would click feed if you wanted to feed it. You can feed up to 30 items at a time. And then gem powders are pretty self-explanatory. They work just like gems when you're feeding your ego. Something else of note is now you have a bond with your ego. You can increase this by using the weapon, and not only by using the weapon, but you can also chat with them, and you'll hear this like sound effect when it works. It'll increase the bond with your ego by 10 each time you do it. So you see here, it used to be 30, now it's 60. And I'm going to do the same thing here because, you know, but there is a time limit, and you can only do it 3 times in between that time limit. So like if I do it again, no sound effect. So it's gone from 30 to 60 as well. And like I said, the easiest way to do that is talk to them every once in a while. When you think about it, see if it increases. If it doesn't, just go use the weapon a few times and it'll increase over time as you use it anyway. So as far as the meta is concerned for ego weapons, the meta is take the left tree first, max this out, and then once you've gotten this critical rate increase, so this unlocks the cap. For those unaware, crit in Mabinogi is locked at 30%. So you can only crit upwards of 30% of the time. And how this works is it takes your crit rate, subtracts the enemy's protection and stuff, and then applies that, and then caps it off at 30% max. So if you have, say, 200% crit, the enemy has 0 protection, then you have a 30% crit chance, right? If the enemy has like 10 protection or whatever, and that's going to reduce your critical rate, and say you only had like 50 crit, you know, so 50 and then the 10 protection, all of a sudden you have like, or, you know, like however much protection it would take. Say you have 20% crit now. After their protection has been applied, you're only going to crit 20% of the time. So in order, the more protection and defensive stats an enemy has, the higher crit rate you're going to need to surpass that to reach that 30% crit cap. But what this does is it increases the cap by 5%. So now instead of 30% crit rate, you now have a 35% crit rate. Like overall. The other thing that can increase this that I'm aware of is renown. Some of the renowns can increase it. I believe the max crit rate you can have right now is something like 48%. So 48% crit rate is much better than 30. But that's just how that works. So meta has been to go for this one first. The way this works is you need 75 points in a particular tree before you can unlock the ultimate in that tree. So for this skill tree, here if we look at my shuriken, I have the ultimate ability, and it took me 75 points to get there. And you can see I've basically capped out 3 of the 4 skills, and then gotten the ultimate. The ultimate takes 10 points, so altogether you'll need 85 ego points to unlock the ultimate in any particular tree, right? And you can reset these. It's going to cost you some gold to reset. The higher level the ego, the more expensive it is. I think the most it caps out at is like 1.8 mil or something like that. Don't quote me on it. I know it's a lot, but it doesn't go super, super ridiculously high. Every time you level up your ego, you're going to want to have 100 bond with the ego for the maximum effect. At certain levels, at like any level over, I believe it's 50, you're going to want to cap bond before you go to level up the ego by feeding it items, so that you can get bonus ego points by having that bond with the spirit before the level up. Every time you level up, the bond resets. And so you can get bonus ego points from that. There's also quests every 5 levels that your ego has that you can complete for additional bonus ego points. So as you can see, the ego here that I have is level 65, but I have like 89 ego points or something like that. Let's see, 85, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9. Yeah, 89. It's 89. So you can get higher than this. I think I missed a couple of bonus points because I didn't realize that beforehand, but that's up to you to make sure that you do that. Which is why before I try to level this up, I'm going to get bond to 100, and then I'll start giving it gems and stuff. There's also some kind of like lucky finishes where if you feed it an item, it'll like have this great success where it doubles the amount of points that it would get toward the next level for what you fed it. It's really good to get those with gems. I typically will feed them like 1 gem at a time just to increases my chances at getting the lucky bonuses. But the other thing you can do is feed it as much as you can at once so that the lucky bonus, if you get it, is massive. But that's 2 different ways to look at the same problem. So at this point, I'm going to switch to a different character here. And I hope this has been helpful so far. I'm going to go ahead and log into a different character that has an old style ego, so I can show you the transfer from old ego to new ego. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish the ego quest on a character to show you how that goes. That's all going to be in a separate video. I'm going to be working on that here very, very shortly, and I'll try to get that up as soon as possible for you as well. So this one's just going over all the different things regarding leveling up egos and what they can look like eventually, some of the effects they can have. And the next video is going to be how to get the ego and what egos you might look at for your race or what you want to do. All right, so I will catch you later. Bye.